We actually have a live guest in studio with us today. Professor of Sociology, Thomas Arcaro, is joining us to talk about some research he did about students' views on the Israel-Palestine war. Now, tossing it over to Charlotte, who's sitting down with the professor.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you, Professor Arcaro, for being with me tonight. You actually had an article in The Pendulum this past week, and it is about the Israel-Palestine shift in opinions over this past year of Elon's students. Can you tell me a little bit about that study that you conducted?
Sure. As a sociologist, I've been doing surveys on various things pretty much my entire career. And when October 7th, 2023 happened, a lot of us began to learn things that we hadn't known in depth before. And so as the year went on, I saw some students coming to me and asking me questions and having different opinions and changing their opinions. So I thought it would be good to do a survey of Elon students and what they thought. And so with cooperation from some really wonderful colleagues, I constructed the questions and did a convenience survey, just a UR code, take the survey. I had some professor friends of mine put it out to students. And so I got the data in 2024 and decided to do it again in 25 because the difference between 24 and 25, as you might have seen in the op-ed in The Pendulum, the difference was quite dramatic.
Mm-hmm. And why conduct the survey now? Why not, when it started?
I began thinking of doing the survey immediately because I just wondered what people were thinking. But life happens, and I didn't get to it until the year anniversary, and I thought that would be a good time to do the initial survey. And then, of course, a year later, just to test how the changes occurred.
Yeah, and do you see in your research with other studies that you might have looked at, do you see any differences between Elon and those other polls?
There have been a lot of polls about this particular topic nationally, and the one that just came out 3 days ago is pretty interesting, and it dovetails with the results I got. The Gallup poll has been looking at do you support Israelis or Palestinians since 2002. And those data have been very consistent over the years with a much larger proportion of the Americans supporting Israel and few supporting Palestine. Just with the 2026 data, those numbers have now come together, and there's actually more people supporting Palestine than Israel. That is just an amazing turnaround. And my data indicates exactly that there has been a shift in support among Elon students, definitely.
Yeah, that was one of the most significant points in your research. It was that 14.88 point increase in support.
A big increase in Palestinians, and it wasn't equal across all demographics, gender and particularly religion, and political view. Those students that were atheistic and more liberal kind of drove the gap, whereas in 2024 there were a lot of people undecided. I support both sides. What I found in my data is that the middle pretty much collapsed. It was more polarized, and of the ones that shifted toward Palestinians, they're heavily represented by more liberal and non-religious people. That said, there were some the Jewish numbers did change from a lot of support for Israel to not a great deal, but some increasing support for Palestine. So it's just very fascinating. And I think important. The reason I did the survey was to provide data points for people on campus. This is a very contentious topic. This is very visceral for a lot of people. And I think having data, I'm a sociologist, so of course I think in those terms, having data points to talk about as points of departure for deep conversations is good. So that was the initial impetus behind the survey, is to provide some data for us to look at.
Yeah. Well, Professor Arcaro, thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you want to read his op-ed, please check out our pendulum from last week.